again in the side chat.
All right, so we're starting the December episode of the Second Matters chat. We're doing this one later in the day, or later in the night even. So we're not going to have the turnout we sometimes have earlier, but we did it after the primetime chats. Pretty much over. So this is the last one of the year. I figure we try to look back at see how it went, and look again to next year and what kind of stuff we want to do. Anyone?
I'm sorry. I was trying to put my name down in the side chat, and I apologize. So we're covering things over the past year?
Yeah, we've had a pretty long year of stuff. I guess all started out with the SHOT Show and the SIG brace. That was this year, right?
Yep. SIG brace was decided by the ATF to be questionable as far as its usage because it looks like a stock. People act like it was a stock, but people would shoot it on their forearms. And they said it was okay, and then they said it wasn't.
Well, it's still okay to shoot on your forearm. And it's okay to put it on your cheek or on your bicep. You just can't shoulder it.
Yeah, if they catch you shouldering it, you get to have it in your hanging in minimum security prison.
So what, was it 20 years or something like that?
I thought they decided that they were just going to use that, and people were caught using those in commissions of crimes.
Well, when else are you going to, I mean, it's not like the ATF is going to show up in your backyard if you're...
Well, no, I'm talking about people like when they're at the gun range, and stuff, and they do
my
that.
gun range won't even allow you to use an AR pistol at the range. You can't have rifle caliber pistols at all. And from what I understand, even the little contender bolt action pistols, you can't even use those on their pistol range.
Hey, you want to know what it is on my gun range? Do this. We go. ATF. Nope. Boo, boo, boo.
Well, the river's a lot closer than my range anyway, so.
And probably the reason they don't want you to shoot the pistol caliber carbines, the rifle caliber pistols at pistol ranges is because of steel and stuff like that. It'll just tear it up.
Well, no, because we don't have target. You have to bring your own targets down there. It's using the term range is loosely here, but it's just a place with a backdrop. Basically, they just have a big mound back there to stop the projectiles. But yeah, it's got lines up that you can put things on, like these big clothesline deals that you can hang paper on, or you can go out and set your targets up, and they're already measured off. But the pistol range, it only goes out to 50 yards. So I would imagine that's probably part of it too, is that it's set up for shorter ranges for pistols on that side, but they don't allow any handguns on the rifle range. So you're kind of screwed both ways on that.
So G-Webs, I'm just curious, if I hypothetically got caught shooting one of these things in the wrong way, I would end up in jail, prosecuted by the ATF. Yet, if I were a gangbanger and another color in LA, and I took an actual fully automatic AK-47 and mowed down a house, and I got caught, I would be prosecuted on the criminal level in California for attempted murder and be out in 3 years? Is that fair?
No, that's not true. My understanding is if you're breaking federal laws, you're always going to be in violation of them. So you would do all that stuff on the state level and then also have federal charges for the altered firearm or whatever.
You're very wrong about that, G.
That
Webs.
they would drop those charges so that they could prosecute you for the gangbanger related charges in a plea deal.
In LA and in Chicago, they do not seek federal charges. They let the state take care of it, even though they're breaking federal laws, which are far stricter than the federal ones. I guarantee you. I mean, the average person who gets caught with an illegal gun in Chicago spends a year in jail or less. And if I got caught with an illegal gun here in Texas and the ATF found me with it, what do you think that is? What, 10 years?
It's 10 years per offense, so there's usually more than one offense in an altered firearm.
So what I'm asking is why is a gangbanger in Chicago getting away with carrying an illegal gun and gets 1 year in jail in Chicago time, but the federal prosecution doesn't hold it against them?
I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know how you'd sort of an angle to use to try to change people's minds or use that to illustrate that, I don't know what you'd call that, like crime loophole or something.
No, all it is that the federal government does not incarcerate people typically on simple crimes. They have to build a gigantic case and do this. And they couldn't flood the federal jails with all the people who commit gun crimes. I mean, if they had like 8,000 people a year into the federal jail system for a time period of 10 to 20 years, they'd be overmaxed. So they just don't prosecute it.
Most federal prosecutors will only charge people who are habitual or career criminals. They won't take like a first-time offender for like a gun charge. And in cases of Chicago, and Chicago's a bad one because the prosecutors, and given who the mayor is, they don't want to charge those guys federally. And that's, I've read a few articles on that, which is pretty sad.
Well, we're kind of just doing a yearly wrap-up, but this is obviously a firearms-related issue. I guess my hesitancy on that line, I guess the concept that we're gonna, the tactic of pointing to the either the vagueness or the fact that they don't enforce the laws that are already in the book. I mean, that's a valid strategy or whatever. But I think the negative part of that, there is a negative part of that, would be when let's say you go to the range and you've got a part that's worn out or something's damaged or a spring jumps or who knows, things can happen. You have something cook off and 2 rounds go off. Something happens, malfunction, just innocent thing happens, malfunction. If there's some sort of, I'm just going to say mandatory minimums for lack of a better word, but some sort of like line in the sand where we're using the idea that you need to enforce all these laws because we have enough laws. Let's just enforce the ones we've got. I don't want to get to that because they don't enforce laws well or with good judgment always. So I don't want to see good people just being steamrolled by a system that we go to because it was. I don't know if it was. I'm just thinking we have to think it out. I don't jump behind. Let's persecute everybody with gun stuff. I guess the other side of that is I don't fear everybody with guns. I've said it before, I don't really think there could be giant stockpiles of gang guns. Unless they're using them, who cares if they got big stockpiles of gang guns? So if we're going to say that we, in the name of freedom, we want more enforcement, that doesn't seem like the way to go. I say, well, let's have less enforcement and see what happens. I don't think we're going to see. I don't think that the reason we don't see a ton of violence more than we've got now is because the cops are so efficient. I mean, if they wanted to do more violence, they would.
Well, that wasn't my point, G-Webs. My point is this. If I walk into Washington, D.C., and I'm carrying a concealed carry weapon, and I have a permit from Texas, and they catch me with that, they will probably try to incarcerate me for 10 years and put me in jail. If I go to Chicago and I shoot another gangbanger down, I probably get 7 years or less.
You're not a gangbanger though, so you're
Well,
going to
no,
get the full extent.
I am on the front page if I do that. But if I were African American and shot another African American in Chicago, I would only get 5, 7 years tops.
So, but I'm saying, what is the point, though? Are you saying that we shouldn't have the federal laws if you get caught, or we shouldn't have enforced the laws?
The laws per district are far stricter from one to another.
I don't care about. I mean, I don't see why that's a negative, though. I mean, personally.
Well, carrying a gun is carrying far more weight than killing a person in another area. And there are certain areas I can carry a gun, and for carrying a gun, I can be put in prison longer than a murderer.
The justice system isn't built to be fair.
Well, it's an issue of jurisdiction. I mean, that's kind of the argument I think that he's making. You know, if you go to a rural area, you'll get hemmed up a lot quicker on a minor charge than you would if you were in a large area. Now, you're like, what, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area or a larger city?
Yes.
I guarantee you, if you go to some small town in West Texas someplace and you spit on the sidewalk, they may hem you up for something worse than if, you know, you were at a Cowboys game doing the same thing. You know, it's a matter of scope and scale. And is it right? No, but that's just kind of how things are. And to a point, when you commit a crime in certain jurisdictions, they would prefer that you do it on the other side of the county line when they can hit you with better charges than they could in, say, a large metropolitan area. You know, if you do
I don't mean to derail G-Web's thing here, but it's the difference between federal enforcement and state enforcement when it happens in the same place. But G-Webs, what's the next topic?
Well, let's just keep going in order of the months then. So after the SIG brace, I guess the next one would have been the M855.
Yeah, that was a debacle. I mean, it's stated specifically in the ATF guidelines that ammo was excluded, and then they turn around and say they're going to ban it, and then they get harassed by everybody and they can't.
No, they chose not to. They backed off.
Well, yeah, they
were trying to rewrite the definition of what they had already put in there, and they got so much pushback on it.
They got pushback from, I mean, that's because of places like gun channels, and it was there was a gigantic upswell of, faxes and, phone calls and,
They call it a grassroots effort. I think you're saying that there was this. I'm just going to restate it just in case people couldn't hear you, but you're saying that there was a large volume of emails and communications to the representatives and whatnot, but also to the bigger media, established media, right? Some radio people, I think, or talk show people, maybe on cable. I don't really watch that stuff, but I got the impression that a lot of those people took up the position on our side that the government's overreaching. I think mainly because they were trying to checkmate Obama, right? Not so much because they cared so much about guns, but they don't dislike guns.
It seems to me like there's a real groundswell for the M855 ban of people that wanted to fight it, and by the time the NRA kicked in, and all the media outlets kicked in, it was already a tidal wave before they even, typed a word.
And the fact is, they released the information, and somebody caught it and put it on social media early. That's the main thing that happened. It didn't get to fruition because they put it into next year's handbook, and people caught on to it early, and they attacked
Also,
it into effect.
sorry.
It was, but everyone
Also-
was typing in YouTube green tips. I know because like I did crappy videos and just me talking, you know, and the title was green tips or the search word was green tips, and I had like 2,000 views and of just me talking. You know, people. It was this gigantic. It was such a social media tidal wave. I never saw anything like it.
Oh, there's that, and then the senators got involved too. Like the senator that actually authored the original exemption for the green tips, it got involved and actually was personally affronted that the ATF was going to go over his head, and there was actually several senators actually got upset and were actually discussing for a short time disbanding the ATF.
Well, and another good point is the fact that the military-industrial complex had an agreement set aside to have all surplus ammo sold to civilians to offset their cost, and that was built into their budget. And the fact that some ATF, one person in the ATF writing something could change that, do you realize how much money that is in the industrial military complex?
Yeah, that was a big thing. I saw a lot of articles about that it was going to cost those factories that
Like
make
City
ammo.
Federal?
Yeah, it was going to cost them a lot of money because they were going to lose all those extra sales.
That's where they sent all their bad ammo to.
Yeah, all the stuff that didn't get past, you know, all the tests got sold to civilians.
But as a company, they budgeted.
Yeah, it was part of their probably part of their, you know, bid. You know,
We'll
how
have
they were
X
going to handle it.
amount of this
Probably
ammo that
written
is
into the
not going to
bid.
be back, and we will sell it for the same price or higher to the civilian population. So it was maybe they even messed up some specs to sell more to the civilian population. Maybe it was more profitable to do that. But the fact is, it came down to a lot of damn money, and the senators had their ears.
Well, I don't think the senators have ever shown any disinclination to spending ridiculous amounts of money. I don't think, you know, that
No.
voted
They're paying the senators. They're lobbying the senators.
Yeah, that's why I was just saying the other day. I like what Sean does with his FloridaCarry.org organization. It's just people who can manage to get that thing going. It's a lot of work, and yeah, I mean it's a lot of work, you know, to get out there and you know try and you know lobby for what's already in our Constitution. And like I said, I think a lot of people, you know, that support the Second Amendment, I mean, we just want America back the way, you know, basically the way it was. Um, and well, I don't want to go off topic, but we're talking about green tips. I did like 25 videos on green tips, so it was fun.
Well, I think the green tips was like you said, it was well, I forget the word you used, but it was unprecedented, and it was empowering to see it happen because we kind of talked about it in Match Chat a little earlier. I don't know if many people are watching that, but um, one idea would be to have a champion, somebody that is the perfect spokesperson for the cause, in this case, Second Amendment or freedom or firearms or whatever, and you know, have that perfect person go out there and spread the word. That would be a challenge, right? Finding somebody who would appeal to a lot of people. So this was neat that we didn't need to have one person orchestrated or coordinated or anything. Instead, it was a bunch of people with the common goal, basically, or common drive, and then without a specific direction other than the general rules of how our country works. Everybody was able to approach it with their strengths and with their interests and with their abilities, I guess. And
Yeah,
we did really well. I think the only real thing that I would have liked to see better is an after action. Everyone to have gotten And so we kind of immediately disbanded. It seems like, looking back at it, as far as things go, it would have been nice if somehow we could have did a scan afterwards, saw who was next to us, so that we could strengthen those bonds for the next time, and then.
Everybody kick back and smoke a cigarette like after.
Yeah, but that's not a bad thing either. I mean, sometimes that's how it happens. You get in your first couple of skirmishes and you don't know you were in one until it was done, because it happened so quickly. But that's the thing. We got together, we worked as a cohesive unit. As much as they try to fraction us, and we end up fractioning ourselves because we get bored, and we're the type of people that like to organize things. We organize ourselves so much that we sort of get into, you know, the FUD versus tactical versus hunter versus, whoever, little things. But like I said, all that went aside immediately, and everybody did a pretty good job, I think, of that. So
It was fun to be a small part of it.
definitely, everybody can feel like they should have. Everybody who was even involved watching it should feel like they contributed and should feel good about being a part of it. It's the kind of thing that after a while, we're either going to see that. Well, I guess we won't be seeing if it didn't work, but when it works, everybody will be able to look back and go, "Yeah, it was kind of neat being around for that." Not
Yeah,
quite.
it was like the gun channel's version of like the '60s flower power, except it was green tip power.
Seriously, it was a pretty inconsequential battle. I mean, it would have been bad, but we would have lived through it. We lived through anything anyway. But it was enough to get everybody riled and everybody on point. So we did pretty good. So what was the next thing after that one? I guess that was the time of year when all the things get voted on and the action takes place, and then when there's less political stuff happening. There was other, if we just want to stick with the president and his magical pencil, we got the Garands being blocked, the alterations to the, to the trust version of registering an NFA item. There was some other stuff that happened on like Friday evenings before a holiday weekend throughout the year.
Hawaii, when did Peruta happen?
That was just a few months ago.
Yeah, well, it's still not over, so we're waiting for a ruling, and we may be waiting forever.
Was the Colorado repercussion, like that, did voted out? Was that this year? That wasn't last year, was it?
Colorado? Wait.
Colorado voted the high capacity magazine ban, and then the next legislative cycle, right? Didn't they vote out quite a few of the people that were responsible for that?
Yeah, that did happen. I don't remember the exact date though.
I mean, was it this year or was it 14?
It was last year.
It was.
Oh, okay.
There have been so many battles, We
There
need
have-
like a.
We got Chicago in 14, though. I mean, Illinois in 14, right?
What, Heller?
Yes. Chicago was in
McConnell?
14.
Yeah.
Washington, D.C. was 2011, maybe?
Heller
I'm
was
thinking
long.
too.
Well, we don't sit around.
Chicago was last year. 2014 was Chicago when that went into effect on the January 1st.
We don't. This is a loose type of what do we call this thing? An awareness campaign. So it's not like everybody is tasked with coming up with all these things, and we have notes and stuff that we're going from. So.
Peruta after. So the Peruta case, just looking at the after action, the en banc panel was on June 16th this year, as far as when that happened. But that was the 11 panel judge that we listened to like during the day one day, and then we had a chat after it and talk
That was
about it.
June. That doesn't seem like it was that long ago, but I guess
June
time flies.
16th. I'm just looking at my Peruta after action. We did the chat on June 16th.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's see what else we had. SHOT Show in the beginning of the year. We had NRA show. It was a big deal.
Never mind.
Let's see, there was the second year of the Texas thing. That seems like it got bigger. We had bullpup shoots. Those things are still going. There was 3 different machine gun shoots still. Then you got Eric's Iraqi veterans shoot. Then that thing in Florida, the big 3 one. So there's quite a few. I don't know what to call those, like exhibitions or I don't know what to call that, like shooting demonstration type of days.
Shooting expos or something like that.
Yeah, to various levels of being accessible to the public. So that's, I think, worthy of note that that is a phenomenon because we've seen it. And now I don't watch the TV so much anymore. What I do watch is usually from talking to people in these live chats about gun-related stuff. So I haven't heard much about like the Top Gun, no, Top Shot type of shows. And I know for a while there was some about different manufacturers and stores and things, but all that stuff, from what I understand, has kind of gone away on the cable TV shows. Or are there still primetime like competitions and gun-related shows?
Outdoor Channel has, IPSC stuff sometimes on.
Well, I mean that's actual live coverage of competition, but I mean like those, I don't know what you call them, like fake game shows or whatever Top Shot was. It wasn't really a sanctioned sport or anything. It was just a friendly competition or whatever. And then the other ones are, what do they call it, reality TV type of shows. So anyway, I guess I'm assuming there's not much of those left, and if that's the case, it's cool to see that. I personally think it's cool to see internet people picking that up with all that other stuff I was talking about, all those other shoots that are going on and being covered by internet.
On September 14th, I did my letter to the UK law commissioners who were rewriting the UK firearms code, and because I talked to I do a chat like once a week with some bushcrafter guys in Glasgow, and so since they were accepting letters to rewrite the code in for firearms in all of the UK, I submitted a letter, and that was fun to write because I just got to go through all the stuff. Like I went through like a Brady campaign. I went through actually the cases that they cited, and it really went back all the way to like the movie Braveheart when they had King Edward the First Longshanks versus. I mean, that's how old some of these codes that they were citing. I mean, they're reaching for stuff. If you have to go back to the 1300s, and the Statute of Northampton, to cite precedent. I mean, the precedents they were citing were just, so it felt really good to help another country out, even though they do have a Bill of Rights Act in the UK, and it's just that, they ignore it, and so I had a lot of fun writing that letter, and but it's the UK, so the fact they're going to do what they want, we have enough problems in our own country. But I do have a open letter that I submitted, and it's on one of my videos in the video description. But I think all the guys on Fox Prepping Company liked it, and but they mostly do bushcraft because it's too hard for them to get guns, and you need a permit just to do reloading. So, I mean, you need a permit just to reload. So, and it's very hard to get guns, but so.
All right. So, anything else? End of the year type wrap up. I'm sure we're forgetting something, or multiple things. Probably it's a whole year.
End of the year wrap up. I don't know. We still have. I'm still trying to figure out what to do about the State of Hawaii Department of Land and Natural Resource gun seizure squad that they've got running around, breaking all the laws, seizing people's guns, and even though there's the chief enforcement officer sent me a note saying they're not allowed to forfeiture any property, and they haven't forfeited anybody's property, and gone through one forfeiture procedure, because they lost this case, uh, you know, in a forfeiture procedure case, so they can't do that. But they're and he said, well, we haven't forfeited any property, and because I asked him, well, where's the list of all the property you forfeited? And because I know they've seized a lot of guns, for minor hunting violations, and they're basically walking around breaking the law. So, because you're supposed to only, according to the penalty code, they can only seize people's firearms upon a second conviction. And if basically what happens if you're on hunting area, and if you have a non-hunting caliber gun, or you have a full metal jacket instead of a soft point, or you aren't wearing blaze orange, they'll just take your guns.
Well, they do that here. I mean, they do that to people here if they're in, but I guess it causes them to take it to court, and then they get their crap back unless they're convicted of something,
Yeah, but
something else.
it turns the law around because it makes you guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they do that around here. I mean, and this is freaking Bama, but yeah, if the game warden catches you without your blaze orange, or you got the wrong kind of gun or whatever, they'll seize it when they give you that ticket. And
yeah,
then
so if you take your kid out,
so you'll get your gun back when you go to court and do all your crap and everything, as long as you're not convicted of something that would otherwise take your gun anyway. But you've got to go to court to get your gun back and probably pay more than you would have.
$10,000 to a lawyer.
Yeah, probably.
And
a lot of those are old anti-poaching laws.
Yeah.
Well, it's just that because they lost this case, when they basically Carlisle versus One Boat, they tried to seize somebody's fishing nets and boat because they were using the wrong kind of fishing net, and they lost, and they can't forfeiture anything anymore. And so they're required to keep a list and submit it with their yearly budget report and to the legislature of everything, all the property that they forfeited, and they're seizing all these guns, but knowing that they have no right to forfeiture them. So, and knowing that they're taking them on a first offense and not a second conviction, like the law says. So they're not following the laws. They know they're not following the laws, and it's just, if you take your kid into a hunting area with a .22 rifle, they'll just take your .22 rifle, make you look bad in front of your kid, and take your .22, So because that's not a hunting caliber, So.
Well, a lot of them try to get away with that by making you prove you own the gun. So if you can't prove you own it or lost your receipt, it's not your gun.
Well, no, this is for straight for violence, and they've actually issued a new. They issued the new hunting codes to do this, and the governor signed the new hunting codes. The new governor, and I don't recall the governor signing the last hunting codes, but there is no. You have to actually go down and ask for it because they haven't bothered to put the new codes up on their website at all. So like nobody even knows there's new codes, and they change some of them to make it easier to violate you for hunting violations. They just want to seize guns. I think the governor, that's what he wanted them to do. So.
Well, it sounds like that's the kind of stuff that they're only able to do in the dark. So go ahead and, like you said, you're just going to compile something to.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do because I talked to Sean. It's like, yeah, you have to get a lawyer, and I mean, I just glad I got an admission from that they haven't forfeited any property of any kind. When I sent them the first letter, I specifically didn't mention the word guns. I just said you're not in compliance with there's no list of the stuff that you forfeited. So where's the list? And so I got a letter back from the chief enforcement officer that said, well, we didn't forfeiture anything ever since this one case like 5 years ago. And I said, well, I'm getting complaints from every FFL on the island. Then DLNR is seizing people's guns. So.
All right. Well, so that you do a chat on Mondays, and you said you already covered this before, or you're going to cover it.
I've covered it, but short of starting an entire. The problem is we don't have a shooting range, and they haven't approved the shooting range. So, I'm not really sure what the next step is. Short of without hiring lawyers and spending money that I don't have on to try and get some get them to approve an actual just a shooting range.
Right.
But,
Well, this is a issue for Hawaii, so you're bringing it to the attention of people that follow you on your efforts on YouTube and on gun channels. I think that's again the kind of thing that they're able to do in the dark if there's not a lot of people that are interacting with them, and those people don't have interest or inclination to.
Yeah, and people just get so frustrated
out, they're going to continue to be able to do it. So
and people that I've talked to people that have had their gun seized, and they just like they lost their faith in America, and so I'm just trying to shine a light on it first, and I think that's the first step. And,
right, that's what Never Second Matters is all about, is to encourage people to do stuff like that and to help facilitate it to some extent. A couple of different ways. One, we talk about it on the second day of every month, of course. So we're, devoting some time and attention to the subjects, and hopefully the people that are listening to us live right now. We've got 30 people listening to us live. This will turn into a podcast, and there'll be potentially the people listening to it in the future, or in the long-term future, somebody might come back and just listen to some of these. Most of them are about an hour. This gives them the sort of a look into the various diversity, I guess, of issues that you might deal with on the firearms issue. It's not just a carry issue. It's not just a hunting issue. It's not just a Second Amendment black and white issue, I guess. It can be a lot of things, and then depending on where you're at with your interest in the hobby, or your interest in self-protection, or your interest in human rights, I guess, then
all the court cases
have different.
And all the active court cases.
Yeah, exactly. We live in a political country that is open, and it's encouraged for us to be a part of that, either as voters or as people who offer our opinions to our elected representatives, whose job is to take the consensus of opinion in their area and relay it to the whatever federal level stuff. So and again, we can either watch all this stuff happen and then look at it in the history books, or we can participate in it. So yeah, watching the things like the court cases. I mean, there's 3 sections of government, so we've got the judicial stuff to watch and to pay attention to and to comment on, and I guess react to in our voting and in our urging of the other branch, the representative branch, where we have a lot more immediate interaction and ability to cause change over there. And I think we talked about that earlier. As a group, we're all doing a pretty good job of that, I think. And then in the long term, we're doing a pretty good job as a rule too. We've got 50 states CCW already, back to CCW again. And then we got the executive branch over there being a jerk. And whether or not you think we're going to win the tide back over to a more conservative side next time around, we're obviously going to have something happen next year. So being aware of all this is strengthening ourselves. It's given the people out there that are just listening to what we're saying a little perspective on the different issues. And then again, hopefully we're encouraging and offering the opportunity to anybody who might be listening to participate. There is no real organization to Every Second Matters. There's a group of maybe 10 or 12 or 20 of us or something that came up with it a few years ago, the concept of just trying to become aware of the Second Amendment on the second day of the month, and then talk about it. Of that group, whoever happens to have interest in or ability to host this live show that we're doing, and that's about all there is to it. So anybody that wants to participate, we do it through gun channels primarily. even though we host it on the YouTube, it's just a little bit easier to send links and to facilitate jumping in part of it through the gun channel side. There's no cost to join up. Just join up and click the links to the Every Second Matters on the second day of the month.
Hey,
And
G-Webs.
yeah.
We actually were talking about it in the Matt's chat earlier, the Never Enough Ammo chat, in the lobby. Like, what would it cost to get like a startup going to like mass-produced Every Second Matters cards, but like vary them slightly instead of having put gun channels on it and all that, but do the Every Second Matter card and then try and get our people here at gun channels, the people that are actually joined members of gun channels, to try and get them together and just hand out a card, hand out the Every Second Matters card, and it doesn't have to be just on the second of every month. I mean, I know that's its philosophy, every second of the month for the Second Amendment, but I mean, maybe we could just come up with pro Second Amendment type cards that we could handle that we can hand out to the populace as we go, kind of thing. And I was just wondering, like, would that be feasible? Would that be a feasible idea? And what would the startup cost? And maybe we could get a startup going.
It'd be cool
Let's
if you had one.
Usually those cards, like business card type things, you can get pretty cheap, something like $30 for 500 or 1,000 or whatever the special of the day happens to be. A little bit of shipping, and then that gets a bunch of them to one person. So then the issue with distribution of something like that is the next step, which is putting a bunch in an envelope and then sending them. So that's usually, you figure about $1 a person by the time you pay for an envelope and you stick them in there.
Then you have to hang out at the gun range and pass them out.
Well, no, but I'm just saying how to get those cards out. So we've had the idea of doing the cards for a while. I think on both, on everysecondmatters.com, there's there's a PDF that is the artwork for the card, and anybody can download that and then do something like, you see these ads for free or cheap, inexpensive business cards. Sometimes you can get them for free if you don't mind the back saying, these were provided free by so and so or something. Sometimes you get them on like a store receipt or something, like a special deal. So you can grab that artwork and have your own batch made up, which is one option.
And it's on the Every Second Matters channel on gun channels, that artwork.
Oh, I should probably show it there too, but I think it's just on everysecondmatters.com right now.
Okay.
But it's
Okay.
but anyway, so there's that option. But we were talking in Matt's chat about I think we were talking also about going into a restaurant or a business that has the no gun sign, in looking at that as an opportunity that someone, or to have a conversation with someone and maybe leave a discreet business card size thing that you can hand the person so that they have something to look at, maybe that refers them to a website. So we could potentially do something with that. I don't see any reason to add more noise to the mix or to repeat effort. So I know that there's at least a couple of state level organizations that have their own version of a card that I'm talking about. Usually they'll have a version that says, "You've lost business. Gun owners are typically well off and responsible people, and you're alienating them with that sign in the window. Just thought I'd let you know. Here's a heads up," and you can kind of give that to the manager. Then there's also cards that'll say, "Thank you for your pro-gun stance. That it's appreciated. I'm going to post your name on the pro-gun list at my state level organization. Thank you for your stance on freedom," or something. So in other words, you can. I'll just link to those on Every Second Matters so that we don't duplicate effort, but then just pick the one you like the best out of that and either print them or, again, do the inexpensive business card someplace.
Okay, sounds like a plan. I just thought, I've only been here since January or something like that, and I know we've talked about it before. I just, wanted to reiterate it, especially now, with as the elections are coming closer. If we can get out there and maybe get people to come to us on gun channels or whatever, then maybe we can get some more swing votes and just help protect the Second Amendment.
I used to get like orders of those cards and then put them in whenever like I'll sell a patch or send out a patch for the daily patch giveaway or whatever. Um, but the problem is then you like I'll do a Kickstarter or something or one of those campaigns and then have to send out like 100 things. And if I only bought 500 of those cards, that'll put a big dent in them. So that's my problem is I don't buy them by the billion or anything. So I end up. I used to have a thing where I think I took like 25 of them at a time.
There's
Whatever
only
would fit into an envelope.
325 million people in America, dude. You don't need a billion.
Right. So I think for a while there, I was putting whatever would fit. I think what I just weighed it out. Whatever would fit into an envelope for a reasonable amount of money, I just charged whatever it cost for the cards plus the shipping. And I did that for a while, but enough people took me up on that that I kept running out of cards all the time, and then I wouldn't have them. So that's the dilemma is just having. I don't know. I just don't have.
What I think the thing is, if you look around wherever you live, there's probably something you can do, to, uh, you know, make people aware, of the Constitution and all the best parts about America and how all the 99.99999% of all the gun owners in America are the good guys, and um, in spite of the media doesn't always paint them that way, but that is the truth. So.
Oh no, it's like all those the cards that G-Woods was just talking about, that I got when I order patches or whatever. I'd also get like the gun channels patch, uh, or the gun website patch. What is the your avatar patch? Is it gun channels or gun website? Uh, G-Webs. You got the G with the Glock. Yeah.
That's Gun Channels G.
Okay, that's what I thought. You know, I kept one for myself, and all the extras I gave out to friends, and I gave all those cards out to friends too, other friends, and it's like I'm out. They seem to like them, but you know, that's another reason why I was thinking about it, because there are a lot of people around me that I know that are pro Second Amendment, and I keep telling them about gun channels, but if I had like a card or something like that, and so I'll just, I can hand it
I
to them.
got to deal with the place where I get my cards, and I got to get more for when the AK cards come out. So I want to put every Second Matters cards in with those. So I'll be buying a bunch for that. Anyway, I got to deal like one of these Christmas time 50% off things or whatever. So I'm gonna get a bunch of Gun Channels ones made up that are just telling about what Gun Channels is specifically.
Right on. Gun Channels. Are you going to have that on gunchannels.com too? Or
I guess yeah. I'll see. Like I say, I think it's a 50% off coupon. As long as I can still get that, I'll get a shit ton, and then I'll make it so like whatever they cost, I'll just send them out to people again, like whatever fits in an envelope for $1 or whatever.
Right on. All right, cool. That's you said make sure you get in the fight kind of thing. We can either sit by and be spectators or actually be participate in it. And I like the idea of participating rather than being a spectator, so that's why I brought it up.
Right on. Thanks. I'm now looking to see like the picture for the cards is old, so I'm grabbing the new one and I'll shove it up there and give the link to everybody.
Right on. Oh, Sean, I'm still moving to Alabama. Get that place ready.
I was a little bit worried about you this evening there when I first saw that report about San Bernardino.
Oh man, Obama just was like babbling on the BBC about gun control, and it just.
Well, he's not the only one. Like within 15 minutes, like they were saying over in Matt's chat, it's like, what is his name? Oh crap, he's like a New York senator. I can't remember his name. He was out there, talking about gun control.
Schumer?
Yeah, he was talking about, oh, this is it. We got to do something about gun control. It's like they didn't even find out what was going on about it. I mean, this is right as they found out there was a shooting, and they weren't even sure how many shooters there were, And then Hillary tweeted something about.
When your president is overseas, and let's just pick the most divisive issues and say it. He's out there saying America just, it's like almost apologizing for those stupid Americans and their guns. I mean,
It's about time somebody got out there and apologized for us, and also our tailpipes. Because if we wouldn't be polluting so much, then there wouldn't be this terrorism. So I think it's good that he's willing to stand up there with the rest of the world and acknowledge that what the real problem is.
There's
Yeah,
a
like
pro-gluten faction.
climate is the real problem.
You see gluten factories? I never thought about that,
No,
but
well,
they put all kinds of chlorofarbons into the atmosphere.
So the
no,
guy,
saying it was the terrorists were a pro-gluten faction.
well, the guy's last name apparently was Farouk, one of the shooters, and I mean that Farouk, that was the name of the king of Egypt that Nasser overthrew.
This is the very second matters. I don't know why Matt got so sloppy, but I'm going to throw down the one of very few rules we ever have in these chats. We can just say it is an obvious foreign name. We don't need to name these a-holes, even if they're not looking for it.
Well, he was a king of Egypt. That's the name. So whatever.
But yeah, we're hearing that they're probably not. Well, we were talking about that for like 2 hours. We all know that that's garbage.
Yeah.
Unless you guys really want to talk, I guess I shouldn't shit on gun-related stuff. But at this point, it's speculation and trying to do a wrap up, not react. I don't like. Obviously, if you listen to this at all or listen to my blabbing before, I don't like reacting when they want us to. They're putting all this stuff out there now. 2 weeks from now, if it's like we suspect, they're not going to acknowledge that this even existed because it's not going to fit their narrative, and it won't. They'll use the numbers, but they won't ever use the incident.
But they did push the agenda, and I think that's what a lot of people are saying. The fact that the very minute it happened, let's push the agenda and the narrative that we have, and hope it sticks on the wall. And then when they find out that the facts don't exactly bear it out, they go, well, yeah, maybe they were terrorists, but they still got guns somehow. And how did they get these guns?
You know what? I think we need to like flood whatever Twitter thing they get whenever one of these things happens, so they don't know about it. I mean, if like every time there's a mass shooting, like Hillary's Twitter feed gets flooded with stuff about glutens or something, or Bloomberg's,
It'll be like the gluten campaign.
the gluten. They'll be, if they get like a million gluten tweets, during the next gun shooting, then maybe they won't. It'll take them longer than 15 minutes to get on, the Communist News Network or All About Clinton or the Clinton Broadcasting System or Nothing But Clinton.
Well, I'm not going to let this turn into Clinton bashing. So
Why not?
Smeggy jumped in. I don't know, we're doing a end of the year wrap up. Was there anything you wanted to throw out there?
Oh, no, not really. I just kind of jumped in to see what you guys were talking about. I had a couple decent gun-related conversations, and I wore my Every Second Matters T-shirt, but I worked so long today, I pretty much just wore it to dinner and then came back to the hotel. So, but I did bring up a couple things at dinner. And, one of the guys is definitely a big hunter, big gun guy, and the other guys are kind of like guns are okay, I don't have a problem with them, but they didn't know like a lot about it. So
I wanted to bring up the Friedman case for a moment. That's in this, that's been relisted, I think, for the 7th time. That's the certiorari appeal to the Supreme Court in Illinois for high capacity mag ban and assault weapon ban. City of Friedman in Illinois.
I can barely hear you again, but you're talking about some case that's coming up to the Supreme Court about assault weapon ban case in Illinois.
Yeah, and high capacity mag. It's been relisted like 7 times. So it's hard to tell when something gets relisted 7 times if they're just waiting for a clerk to write a reason why they don't have to hear it, other than we don't want to let's hear it, but because it's been relisted, for a conference like 7 times already, so and yeah, that's the Friedman case in Illinois. Friedman, and I think the Illinois Rifle Association versus the city of Freedman. So, or wait, no, the city of Highland Park. Sorry. And but it's sometimes it's like watching paint dry. Waiting for the courts to do something, especially since they want the legislature to do it for them. They don't want to legislate from the bench, and they don't want to hear these cases. It seems like, but you never know. So, but watching him is like, it's just keeping track of all the cases, on SCOTUS blog and for the Supreme Court, and they all come up from district court, and then they go to some appeals court. So it's like a full-time job if you really want to watch all these cases, and a lot of it's like watching paint dry because the courts really don't want to hear these cases. They don't want to hear controversial cases, sometimes on guns for some reason that I don't understand, but
Well, part of it is they don't want to hear cases when they think their side will lose. Because if they hear the case now, but you have, a bunch of liberals or whatever, and it gets shot down, that's worse than if they wait until they have like another judge on their side, and then they'll want to hear it.
And then there was that case, I forget which one when it was, in Washington D.C., where the judge didn't want to issue a ruling, and he was like going to retire without issuing a ruling, and they actually got a federal court in Washington D.C. They got like a federal court to issue a writ of mandamus that he makes some kind of ruling, and not just sit on the case. And it was a pro Second Amendment ruling, but he just didn't want to make it. They literally, when you have to have a higher court issue a writ of mandamus just to make a ruling, any ruling on the case, that's just, there's something wrong with the system.
Well, that was in D.C. though, and you get the same kind of thing in Chicago and some of those other, San Francisco is another one, where the city in and of themselves don't want guns there, so they refuse to basically let the municipal clerk court or the common pleas court judge make a decision.
It's like if the judge issues a pro Second Amendment ruling, then the city mayor, they won't pick up his garbage in front of his house anymore or something.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of political things with that, and I don't know if, I mean, it has nothing to do with the courts or anything, but the only gun shop in San Francisco closed its doors here, I think, like last month, because basically the city of San Francisco, forced them out of business by so much legislation and
the whole
so
thing
many.
with gun control really started in San Francisco, didn't it? When the supervisor Milk got shot down and dead by he was a elected supervisor. He was
Harvey Milk, is that what that story is about?
Yeah, and then what's that you're typing in the side chat there, Heavy? But anyway,
I thought you said they had to force the court to by issuing a Matt Damon. I didn't hear you enough. So
a writ of Matt. Yeah, we need to set in Matt Damon there. The born Second Amendment ultimatum. No, but what happened was how gun control started was the supervisor fired some government employee who got pissed, and he shot the supervisor. In the I don't know in where they have their meetings for the legislature or whatever, city council, and so the gunman claimed that was when he came up with a Twinkie defense. He was fired, he ate a bunch of Twinkies, so it was temporary insanity. So and he got off. That's how the Twinkie defense works, and that's why gun control started in San Francisco. So it's all because of the fucking Twinkie and glutens.
Pro-gluten lobby.
But a writ of mandamus, what a writ of mandamus is, to specifically bring up Heavy B's question and point and little joke, it's not a writ of Matt Damon. It's a writ of mandamus, which means basically what it is, it's a writ from a court to get somebody to do something that they are supposed to do but aren't doing, and that you have a right to expect them to do. Usually, it's a public official, So,
Oh no, I got that. It's just I didn't hear you right the first time, so I thought I'd mention it because I thought it was funny.
Okay. Well, I just thought I'd take the chance to
So,
explain what rid of Mandamus was.
I read of Matt Damon. I got you saying it now.
so we got some good gun news in Michigan. It started December 1st. They got rid of gun review boards for concealed carry permits.
Oh, that's good news.
Because it used to be like
I read that. Yeah.
a shall issue state back in the day. You had to go in front of the board and prove that you were in danger, blah, 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 all this crap. Then they became may issue, or shall issue. Well, I guess I said it the wrong way. So then they went to shall issue, but they still had gun boards in some places. And it just went in effect December 1st that there are no more gun boards. So you fill out your permit, you give it to, whoever, and then they process it and you're good to go. As long as, like, all they do is look, are you allowed to have this? Like, if you're not a prohibited person, then you get it. No other reasoning.
Right.
And from what I hear, there's a bunch of blood on the street, so I guess it's, it's not the Wild West up there.
In Michigan?
Yeah, in Michigan.
They got everybody in Detroit saying, "Bring your guns, because we're not going to be able to save you."
Well, actually the police chief has said that. He came in from a different city and he's like, "Listen, our response times suck. We are trying to get better. I will make us better, but I want our citizens, our good citizens, to be armed and take your own protection in your own hands." He straight up said that. It was like, wow, that is awesome.
What we need to do, I think, is start apologizing for our president to the world. We need to make videos apologizing for Barack Obama to the world. We're sorry that our president is a pussy.
So I know
Let's get Matt right on that.
Well, every time we have a politician that does that, some other left politician says he doesn't represent America, or
Well, if he's going to apologize for us, we need to apologize for him. That's how I feel about it.
Well, it's kind of funny that now in Europe, with all the quote-unquote refugees, that countries like Austria and Germany, they want guns now, all of a sudden.
I don't blame him.
With a flood of immigrants. Well, yeah, that was in the news. That was a couple of weeks ago, I guess, when that, big migration happened. I think I saw it online where this, gun shop where this guy's like, yeah, people are coming in here to buy guns, and I only have some.
The EU is they're offering Turkey membership in the EU, and they're gonna pay him 3 billion euros to keep the refugees there, so they don't have to deal with them. 3 billion euros. They must really not want those refugees in there. I know that Merkel will lose the election next time she runs for office. She has to win an election over this refugee thing, because she's gone from straight down the toilet. But
Europe can have its own.
We're in the weeds. We're in the weeds.
It ain't gonna be in the weeds. So, good question came up from GT in the Gun Channels chat. What do we think of the Hearing Protection Act? Any chance of it going through? So, since we're talking about the year, this is definitely a year for that one. It came to light in its original form from the American Suppressor Association in late 2012, and then with all the Sandy Hook garbage, it really got overwhelmed with necessary reaction to the push from the anti-freedom people. So it's had its time to, I guess.
Nobody was listening to the Hearing Protection Act.
It was silent for quite a while.
Apparently, because I've had to explain what it even is to a lot of people.
Well, we've had some time, so there's been a new interest in the firearms community because of the whole Sandy Hook backlash and whatnot, and then I guess they felt it was a good time for it again. So I can't say that I've been paying it close enough attention to be able to give anybody a where it's at. Has anybody been paying close enough attention to be able to give us a sit rep on where it is right now?
Sorry, I last time I checked, I think somebody submitted it.
Sure. So we know that
legislation.
it's being pushed, and there's been some talk, but unfortunately, it's one of the things that we have a lot of things that are coming in and out of our ears. So how do we pay a due diligence or due attention to stuff like this, which are, I guess I'm assuming that everybody knows what we're talking about. I guess we should just mention that for anybody who might not understand. We're talking about the Hearing Protection Act, which is legislation or bill or whatever to basically bring suppressors off of the NFA, if I understand it correctly. There's still going to be firearms, but it's taking them from a level that requires a background check, an additional background check, fingerprints, $200 tax and whatnot, months of waiting for the federal background check and stuff to go through before you can take possession and use the thing. These are super popular now. Suppressors are super popular, and this act would take the suppressors off of that process and make them just like buying a firearm, I think, going to the store and filling out the paperwork and taking it home with you. That would bring the cost down significantly. It would make the demand for them go up quite a bit. And it would change in a lot of ways. I don't know if people think it through, but it would change the way that shooting would be done. Imagine how much safer an environment would be if the thing that's making all the noise is silenced, so that instead of having to have a bunch of people, potentially untrained students of whatever age, with earmuffs on, things that protect their ears from the noise that the firearm's going to make, if those people could just be with their regular ears, just with their eye protection and able to hear everything that's going on, makes for a safer environment. It gets information across quicker, makes it more enjoyable, and it's just a little less cost for everybody. And we're talking about a thing that adds about the size of a flashlight or a big fat hot dog or something to the front of a firearm. So we're talking about something that makes a firearm longer and bigger, less easy to conceal. So it's not really an issue for crime.
That's what I was just going to mention that.
Anybody can make a suppressor. It's just a muffler. Anyone with any amount of mechanical interest, not even skill, can figure out how to make a gun quieter. And it's pretty obvious that with that common knowledge that's out there, criminals never bother to even try to suppress the noise. It's just not, they don't think of it, they don't need to, they don't do it. So the perception that this is a criminal implement or somehow makes the gun more.
It's all from
It's
Hollywood.
because the movies says so. That's why.
Well, I think one of the main reasons we're not hearing a lot about it right now is because the bill was submitted, and and anything that has to do with bureaucracy, there's a lot of red tape that has to be gone through. So it's going to be a period of time before it's actually brought before any kind of court or anything like that.
I'm saying that it's in the House in front of a committee right now.
Well, that's great.
Oh, really? That's awesome. Well, that just shoots my theory all to hell. I was thinking it was just quieting down, and then when it was actually going to be brought up, that they would start bringing it back to the public's attention.
Well, it's been sitting around there for a while, being shuffled around, so it's finally made it to committee, basically.
So in theory, we should be hearing a lot more. Hey, this is what's going on. You need to get behind it. Let your representatives know and all that. Know that you want this to pass. So. I hope it doesn't fall on deaf ears, as was stated in the lobby.
Yeah, to falling on deaf ears. One of the guys that was teaching the hunting education class for Hawaii used to be the police firearms instructor, and he's basically has to lip read because he's deaf. He used to, because unfortunately in my state they're completely illegal, so taking him off the NFA wouldn't help. But he's taught all the police how to shoot, and he was always at the range, and he didn't always wear hearing protection. He's basically not completely deaf, but functionally deaf. So,
that's one of the things, though. If they're taken off the NFA, maybe that makes it easier for them to then be allowed in the states. Because now you have
to repeal a Hawaii law in a legislature that's full of Democrats.
Look, the federal government used to say these things were evil and scary. Now they say, nah, they're not that bad.
You're expecting Democrats to listen to common sense, and
Well, it takes one level of it takes one of the levels off of there to make it where it might be a little easier to eventually get some legislation passed to make it where it might be taken off the illegal list in some states.
Yeah,
Because some states just specifically list,
well,
you know,
believe me, I'm
silencers
happy to
or
get any federal
suppressors.
progress. You know, I mean, all the lobby groups are focused on the federal level, and I understand that, and
Well,
so just
well,
that's
Hawaii.
great. Go ahead, Heavy B.
I,
What?
I was just saying, you got to win a battle before you can win the war. The more battles you win, the more likely you are to win the war. So if we can get it taken off the NFA and it becomes less regulated through the mainland, then eventually it'll get to places where it's legal in places like California, New York, Chicago, Hawaii.
Well,
Well,
it becomes a trending item.
I think I'll have to be buried here for 100 years before they repeal that law. So, but
well,
I'm hoping.
it used to be illegal to hunt with them here, and I don't remember when it was that they lifted that, but
Annoy all your
basically
neighbors.
it was made to not. They took that off, made it legal, because finally people were able to get past that rhetoric of it being unsportsmanlike to use a silencer. Oh, don't let them hear you miss. I mean, it was completely stupid, the reasoning that they had, because they were basically saying that if you miss the shot, then your prey may not run off because he didn't hear it. So you get a second shot. But if you miss and they hear it, exactly. It's stupid. It's the dumbest thing ever.
For hunters around here, the best reason to use a silencer, I mean, is to not bother your neighbors. If you're hunting on your own property, or
well, there's that, and you have better situational awareness. You know there's a hunter right over there because you just heard him. While you may not be able to see him, you know he's just to your right over there because you just heard him cough or something. Whereas you would have ear protection on and may not hear him. You may accidentally shoot somebody because you had your ear pro in.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, that's what the Blaze Orange was for, I guess. As I know that a lot. The hunting hunter on hunter accidents went down when they mandated Blaze Orange, but pain in the ass to remember to put it on every time.
Well, yeah, because you take it off once you get up the tree. You take it down if you're on ground level. If you're not large game hunting, you don't have to have Blaze Orange here.
Well,
if I'm pheasant and quail hunting in Alabama, I don't have to have Blaze Orange.
Hey, you have to have Blaze Orange even if you're just sighting in your rifle. So as soon as you hit the hunting area, you have to have Blaze Orange. So as soon as you get out of your car, it's like you almost have to put it on when you leave your house. I mean, it's I don't know.
Do you guys have primitive weapons hunting over there?
Oh yeah, bows, spears, with dogs you can do almost anything. You have a dog with you can do almost anything.
You have to wear Blaze Orange when you're primitive weapons hunting, or?
Yeah, but it's pretty much to so you don't get mistaken for a moose or something,
You don't have moose.
Pig. We don't have moose, but we have. So you don't get mistaken for a game animal, basically, if you're wearing camo moving through the bush.
Not
every time something moves, sometimes hunters will shoot if they see something move.
All right, every hunting thing matters some other time too, because we're getting off into the hunting thing a little bit too much. So that came out of the suppressor bill, and Mule, thanks again for he's having trouble getting in, but he's letting us know through the gun channel side that most things die in committee. So we don't want to put the cart before the horse. Just because it's in committee doesn't mean it's on its downhill roll to,
Yeah, I think they're going to keep putting it for committee, and eventually it'll get it put attached as an amendment to something that the Democrats really want, and then it'll get passed. So, But it'll take a while. Be patient. They aren't going to quit. That's the main thing. If you want to win, don't quit. And don't. You'll lose a lot. You'll lose 1,000 times, and then you'll finally win. Every victory comes at 1,000 losses sometimes first. So, yeah.
We haven't had anywhere near 1,000.
Well, what about the SAFE Act in New York? I mean, it was passed by the New York government, but then the people in law enforcement pretty much flipped the bird to New York and said, no, we're not doing it. I mean, that was kind of a big win for us. Just if not for anything else than a moral win, but it was still a win.
Isn't climate change going to put the entire city underwater anyway, and so it'll be a moot point?
Well, yeah, when that happens, I'll have beachfront property out here, and there'll be islands to the west of me. So,
I can't wait. Global warming. I'm just going to drive my car around the island until the sea levels rise.
All right, so we're getting towards the end of the last Every Second Matters chat for 2015. So there's still 30-something people listening. I'm guessing this is people that are interested in this concept of an awareness campaign on the 2nd of every month and getting together and trying to keep coordinated and on track with this resistance to the bullshit or whatever. I don't know how to say it any nicer. So here's my challenge for next year. I tried to do this year. I wasn't able to do it. I don't know if I'll be able to do it next year, but it seems like 16 is going to be an interesting year, an important year for political stuff. And I look at it as a challenge for us, again, as a gun community to strengthen our abilities and to together.
We want America back. We want America back. That's how you should put it.
I'm not going to put it that way for a couple of reasons. Back to when? When was America so perfect and we went off the rails? I just want to keep America the way it is. That it's a framework.
They wrote the Constitution, I think. But
whatever. If you want to go back to 1776, that'd be pretty boring. I like the internet. I'm down with tomorrow. I don't think we have to go back. I just want people to remember that this is a system that we have the ability to do something with. And we have the ability to affect change. We don't have to rely on everyone to agree with us. Everyone working together never does anything really, except for win wars every once in a while. Most major things that have changed in the country have been done by 3% of the people or less who have been ambitious and unrelenting in their drive. And that's all we need to do is get a little bit of that energy going again. Again, we're all people who are at this point listening to it an hour or plus into this. These are people, we are all people who understand what the internet is and the potential it's got. So again, my challenge for next year is we can continue to do these like we have been. It's just a general get together with no real obligation or requirements other than to kind of get together and talk about the second. And I don't think that's a non-ambitious. I mean, I think we've done some real good stuff. However, we have the potential to do a little bit more. I see some of the weaknesses in our collective tools is that there is no Wikipedia when we want to talk about what gun was in a movie, we have a couple of places we can get that information from pretty quick. So I'd like to continue my efforts on building something similar for the gun rights type of stuff, so that some of these numbers that we need occasionally are at our fingertips, so that using the power of the gun channels, which is really the power of the community, of a bunch of like-minded individuals who can contribute to collaborate on this kind of effort. I'm going to build it over on gun channels. It's on that tab at the top that says resources. I'm going to continue to build on that. I'm going to encourage anybody that's interested to participate to jump in. There's no cost at all, and there's no obligation or anything. But let's build this resource so that at least it's there. And if nobody wants to use it, who cares? But at least we've got the practice building something, and we can take that in our own directions and use that in the future. But if we can build something and it's useful, then right on. Then we've added to the collective strength of our side. And if we can build something and it allows other people to stand on our shoulders and do even better, then we're doing what our ultimate goal is. So that's what I'm going to put out the I don't know what to call it, a challenge really, but just the offer again, I guess, for next year. Anybody that's interested, we had some real interest in earlier this year getting people on and making the Ever Second Matters a little more, taking it to another level where we had like people lined up to do interviews with the various nonprofits. I'm going to try again to do that. Not perfect, so I don't have the best organizational skills and all the resources in the world to make these things happen, and because of that, the stuff gets a little bit sloppy, and I don't know if their pre-screeners or whoever look at that sloppiness and don't give us the the clout or whatever that they don't show up when they say they're gonna, or if it's just us not being persistent enough. But whatever, we'll keep trying. And if we can get some of these people on to interview them, let us know about their organizations. We'll try to do that, but then we'll have this same discussion. I mean, I'm not changing Every Second Matters to be something different. I'm just going to try to add that potential to it, to bring on someone each month who is involved with or runs one of these organizations, so that we can get their, straight from the horse's mouth. We can get their perspective on what they're doing and what they're doing and what part of the fight they're in, so that after a series of those of us that want to contribute money know better where we want to put our money, or what angle we want to see our money work for us.
Freedom is messy. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Oh no, yeah, and I don't think if there was something that was like super well made and all polished, I wouldn't pay attention to it. I pay attention to real stuff. So I'm not trying to do anything here I personally am not trying to do anything here that's super highly polished. I'm just thinking since we do have a soapbox, let's try to use it as much as possible. So anyway, all I'm really saying is if anybody's interested in participating with that, contact me with gun websites at gmail.com, or all through gun channels or whatever. And what I'm talking about is people that might want to help try to arrange guests, like scheduling, coming up with just stuff to make the shows a little more on on topic, or planned out. Maybe doing some ideas for just organizing the shows so that we don't miss things that are important. I think that having general discussions is great, but when we've got the elections coming up, maybe we should spend some of our time more productively, right? When we've got the people that are active like this, like we talked about the cards earlier today, at least that's something that can be printed and then done, and that's something that people can choose to participate in. So if we could do something like that each month, that's this is the year to do it.
Big federal election, big consequences. So yeah,
Definitely. Fight the good fight, people.
Right on. So I guess I'm going to cut it there and say thanks everybody for tuning in and participating in the chats, and we will do this again in about a month on the second of 2016.
hey, America's still worth fighting for, so get in there.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. Thanks for having